baby? We're back with another episode, Dv Sports and Gaming Podcast. Dv Slasty doing a MLB pod. We've had a good stretch here going of our top 8 position players in the league right now, informing you guys on who's really getting it done in the league. So today we're looking at third base, top 8 third basemen in the league. And I don't know if you guys are excited for it, but I hear Junior is. Fire. Also, we haven't hit this button in a while.
This weekend sports.
Yes, I got sport.
This week in sports, baby. This week in sports, I'm telling you who the best 8 third basemen are in the league. All right, that's what we're doing. Kind of fun to play with the buttons there. All right, anyways, here we go. Top 8 third basemen. We're just gonna get right into it, like always. Number 8. And also, I do want to say this was the least clear-cut top 2 I've had out of anything. And really, like, a lot of these guys seem like they could just be totally a toss-up to me. But I had to make a top 8, so I put them in the order that I kind of think was appropriate. But I don't even know if my order is very good on this. It's a really challenging one to get right. So with that said, we'll jump into number 8. I got at number 8 right now in the season, Patrick Wisdom. So Patrick Wisdom is the third baseman for the Chicago Cubs. And we'll go over the 5 categories that I'm going off of today for third base. We're going off of batting average, home runs, RBI totals, OPS, and then we are also going off of defensive WAR. So with those things kept in mind, that's what we use to come up with the list and move guys up or down. With that said, batting average for Patrick Wisdom is not great. He is hitting .226 right now. That is 18th on the list for batting average. I mean, not great, right? You can't say that that's amazing. This is one of the bigger reasons he's down at number 8 because his offensive stats, other than that, are pretty strong, actually. So if you don't know who Patrick Wisdom is, he's just like a slugging third baseman who's been hitting a lot of home runs for the Cubs. But yeah, he's not an average guy. He's kind of like the modern day baseball player that gets on base, hits home runs, and strikes out, and has low average but high home run totals. And with that, he can make a good impact on the team just if he keeps slugging the way he is. His home runs are 3rd in the league right now for a third baseman. He is at 12 home runs. So batting .226 with 12 home runs. And he is also, well, like I said, that's number 3 at a third baseman. So very good there. I mean, for a number 8 guy on the list, he's 3rd in home runs. That's pretty freaking good, right? You would think maybe he should be higher, but he's freaking hitting .226. Some of these other guys are hitting better average and similar home run totals. So his RBIs, let's see, Patrick Wisdom RBIs right now, he's at 23 RBIs. That is 11th for third baseman. And the dude, if you think about it, he's got 23 RBIs and he's got 12 home runs. That means 12 of those RBIs are him hitting himself in with a home run. So like he doesn't really have a lot of like at bats where he's hitting guys in really, because 23 with 12 home runs, you would think he would have way more RBIs. And I'll give you a comparison to that later, what I'm kind of talking about. So another reason, like he's not really maybe affecting the games as much as you would hope. With 23 RBIs, 12 home runs. So with 23 RBIs, he's 11th on the list in that category. And this is kind of like an amazing / surprising stat for me for Patrick Wisdom, but his OPS is freaking good. It's 868. So his OPS is like top tier, top level OPS. 868. That is 3rd out of all third basemen in the league right now. And this is like one thing, if you guys have been listening to these, you know, when I look at the OPS, it kind of projects to me where these guys should be on the list. A lot of times, like they're like one off of their OPS is where they end up on the list, the order of it. And he's number 3 in OPS, and I got him at number 8. So I don't know. Maybe I'm underappreciating him. Maybe I just don't appreciate. I think I'm kind of old school too. Like I'm not totally into how baseball is played nowadays. So high OPS, a lot of home runs. I mean, maybe different people would have him higher, but the other thing I did put into account for this was defensive WAR, and I'm double checking this, but I don't think so. Like on my list, tied for 23rd, he is not on here in the top 23 for defensive WAR anywhere. So his defense is not great, and 23 is 0.1. So he's worse than 0.1 in defensive WAR, so that's not great. He's not putting up great defensive numbers, so he's got a super low average, not great defensive numbers, but he's got an amazing OPS and he's hitting home runs. He's not really hitting that many RBIs. With that said, he's number 8. That's where I got him. If he's a guy that could maybe bring the RBI totals up, bring the average up 30 points, maybe he'd go up quite a bit. But right now that's not getting done, so I got him at 8. Okay, moving on. Number 7. I really didn't want to put this guy on the list, to be honest, but after I kind of wanted to put him at number 8, and then I looked at the list and I was like, dang, he needs to be higher than 8. He's better than Patrick Wisdom, I think, and he's arguably better than number 6 on my list, but I got him at 7. It's J.D. Davis for the Giants, San Francisco Giants. And I didn't want to put him on here, but I mean, I looked at the stats over and over and over, and I was like, this guy's got to be on here somewhere. Arguably 6 or 7 is where I would put him, and I got him at 7. So J.D. Davis for the Giants, his batting average is 287 right now, which is 3rd for all of third basemen. So that's really good. Making a lot of contact, putting the ball in play, getting on base on average. So his home run totals is pretty solid too. So he's number 7 for third baseman in home runs at number 8. Or with 8 home runs, he's number 7 on the list. So Patrick Wisdom had 12. He has 8. He's got about 50 points better average than Wisdom did. And then this is another thing you can look at, his RBI totals. He has 26 RBIs, which is 7th on the list, whereas Patrick Wisdom was 11th on the list for RBIs. So he's above him there. So, so far 2 out of 3, he's above him on these stats. And then OPS, this is one where he is just right behind Patrick Wisdom on OPS. He is at 856 for the 4th best OPS out of all third basemen right now. And like I said, Patrick Wisdom was 868. He's at 856, and he is 4th on OPS list, which is also kind of like crazy, right? I got him number 7 on my list, so that doesn't really pass the OPS order list either test that I've been kind of doing. So he's been solid though, man. Those are really good offensive numbers for a third baseman. Average is higher than you would think. Home runs are kind of right there, right where you hope to have him. He's not totally top tier for home runs, but I mean he's not below average either. He's doing very solid, and he's hitting for average, so like you kind of take that. 856 OPS, 4th best for third baseman, and then defensive WAR. Let me see if I had him on here at all in the top 23. Run through it real quick. Yeah, he's not on the top 23 for defensive WAR either. So that hurts him just like it hurts Wisdom. So there we are. He's number 7. He's just a little bit worse in OPS. Neither one of these guys are good at defense, and his RBI totals are a little higher. His home runs are 4 fewer, but still top 7. And then his batting average is about 50 points higher. So you do with that what you will. I feel like those guys are pretty interchangeable, but I couldn't deny J.D. Davis off the list. His overall numbers were too high, and his OPS is super good. So arguably maybe should be higher, but we'll see. Number 6, this is one that he's one of the guys that maybe could have moved down below one of those two guys, but for me right now I got him at number 6, and it's Jose Ramirez, the third baseman for the Cleveland Guardians. And we're throwing him some love because he's been so good for so long, and he's also a switch hitter, which is an extra bonus. Um, we'll get into his stats. His batting average is always pretty good for a third baseman. He's hitting 273, which is fourth on the list for batting average, so really good there. We'll see his home runs. I don't think his home runs are anything crazy. He's 10th on the list in home runs with 6 home runs. And there's a lot of third basemen that have 6 home runs right now, but that puts him, like I said, 10th on the list right now for home runs. So good average, solid home runs, maybe a little low, but still solid. And then RBI totals, this is a solid part for him. He's 8th in RBI totals for 25. That's one worse than JD Davis. So far, he's been, I think, maybe a little worse than JD Davis all across the board. So a little worse in home runs, a little worse in average, a little worse in RBI totals. So maybe we'll mess this up, but we'll see. We'll see. OPS, let's see where he checks in on his OPS. Let's see. Jose Ramirez is number 6 in OPS. Also an above 800 OPS at 824, which is very good. Very good. So that's just 30 points less than, or about 40 points less than Patrick Wisdom, and about 30 points less than JD Davis. So overall, offensively, so far, he's been like maybe slightly worse than both of those guys, but he's better than Patrick Wisdom's average. JD Davis, I want to say, overall has been a little bit better offensively. But with that said, we do have this last category. It's the hot corner, right? At third base, you got to be able to make those plays. The ball comes in fast. Some of the hardest hit balls get pulled down third baseline. And you got to be able to make those plays. And those other two guys weren't anywhere in the top 23 in defensive WAR, and this guy is number 23 in defensive WAR, so he's got that going. So maybe he's slightly worse offensively so far in this season than those guys, but defensively he's at least in the top 23. He's better than those guys. They're all kind of interchangeable, like I said. So because of that, I put him at number 6. And honestly, like, the guy is really good, and he's over the course of the season, I would not expect Patrick Wisdom or JD Davis to have a better season than Jose Ramirez. I know that's kind of the first time I've mentioned like a prior history, but it was just kind of a tough decision for that one. And I know Jose Ramirez will end up being better. And so far with his defense, I'd probably take him over those two guys. Number 5, and this is a pretty cool one. This guy's super young. He's actually a rookie for the Texas Rangers, Josh Young, and it was kind of cool to see him on this list. Honestly, for me, I was like, wow, I didn't realize he's put together that good of a season so far. The kid is 8th on the list in batting average at 263. So that's solid. That's better than everybody on. Well, it's better than Patrick Wisdom and a little bit worse than Ramirez, who had 273, so 10 points worse. So he's 8, top 10 in batting average so far, so that's good. You'll take that. And then his home run totals, he is 4th on the list, tied for 4th on the list at 10 home runs. So he's got more home runs than Davis and more home runs than Ramirez, 2 less than Wisdom. So pretty solid in the home run department. Average in home runs, you'll take that. RBI totals. Is he hitting in the clutch, bringing guys in? He's got 30 RBIs, which is crazy for a rookie, and he's also 5th in the list for RBIs as a third baseman for the Texas Rangers. So he is playing very well. He's getting guys brought in. He's hitting home runs, and he's getting affecting the scores of games by bringing in hit runs and hitting home runs. So with that, he's got the best RBI total. So he's got the best RBI total so far for third baseman that have been mentioned on this list. So you kind of take that with a grain of salt or whatever, but he's been playing really good. We'll move on to his OPS. Let's see where his OPS is. Josh Young, his OPS is where it falls off a little, and I think this is where you see his rookie play maybe, because I feel like the more they play, the more on base percentage goes up, and his on base percentage is solid, but his OPS is a little bit lower. It's at 786. So basically with that, it's just he's not taking the walks that some of these other veteran players are. So he's at 786. If he could mix in some walks, he'd be having a awesome season with above 800 OPS, which is always the mark of a really strong season. So he's 8th on the list right now in OPS, and that's the lowest thing he's had so far. And also he's been really good defensively. So he's 6th in defensive WAR right now, and that's another reason why he's above those other guys. The highest defensive WAR so far on the list at 0.3. All those defensive WARs are pretty like tight, but you'll take he's 6th on the list, I'll take him. Right? So there you go. Josh Young, super young guy. If you haven't watched him play, go watch him play for the Texas Rangers. He's actually a really exciting player. And he's the youngest player by far on this list. A lot of these guys are veteran guys. Number 4, which is kind of surprising that he is so low. He's a top elite third baseman, but he had a slow start to the season, and he's kind of been putting it on here lately, getting hot. So with that said, this is where we got at number 4. We got Nolan Arenado at number 4. And it kind of hurts me to put him there. I just feel like he should be number 1 every year, but he's at number 4 right now, and I'll have to go over his stats to show you guys why. So his batting average right now is 271, which is 6th overall for third baseman, which is solid. You'll take 271 all day. His home run totals is 9, and he's been heating up, so I would not be surprised if before long he ends up higher than 6th overall with 9 home runs. But at this current time, I have him here because there's a bunch of guys above him. Wisdom's above him. Young's above him. There's a few other guys to come on the list that are above him. J.D. Davis is 1 less than him. So these guys are, he's not top tier in home runs right now, but he is still very good at 6th overall in home runs. This is where Arenado thrives because he hits in the middle of the order, and he's a pretty clutch player. He is 2nd in RBIs right now with 34, and if he's bringing in RBIs, he's hitting in the clutch, doing the things he needs to do to bring in runs and affecting wins. So you'll take him. Maybe having a little bit of a down year in some other spots. He's coming on strong, but now he's bringing in runs, and that's what the Cardinals need him to do. And his OPS is kind of telling the story a little bit of why he's number 4. So in OPS this year so far, Nolan Arenado is 11th. So if you've been thinking, why is he 4? These stats have been looking pretty good. He's 11th in OPS with a 762 OPS. Jamer Candelario, Spencer Steer, both of those guys, Isaac Paredes, all these guys have better OPS than Nolan Arenado. So it's like I can't put him where I want to because his stats just don't match up with that. And then the last thing we account for with him is his defensive WAR, and this dude's a premier defender in the league and has been for a long time. But right now he's 7th in defensive WAR at 0.3. He's right there, just slightly below Josh Young for the Texas Rangers. So if you're asking anybody that knows baseball, they know that Nolan Arenado is arguably the best defensive third baseman in the league for like the past 5 years, or longer. So you'll take his defense, and that's never a negative for him. So with that, we got his stats, and that's why he's number 4. Some of these top 3 were just hard to do because the stats were so high and so low in different spots, and that's why I got this guy number 3 right here, Max Muncy for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Max Muncy, he's got some great numbers and some not great numbers. So like his batting average sucks. It's 20th, his batting average at 209. Just brutal, right? You think, why is he number 3, Sam, at 209 batting average? It's because he's 1st in home runs with 15 home runs. You're 1 in home runs. You want your third baseman to be slugging, right, and hitting the ball out of the park. guess what? He's doing that. And he's also tied for second in RBIs with Nolan Arenado. So he's not only leading the league in home runs for third baseman, he's second in RBIs. Yeah, his batting average sucks, but guess what? That's what baseball is nowadays. He's also got the second highest OPS in the league right now for third baseman at 879, almost a 900 OPS. That's ridiculous. How the heck do you have an 879 OPS, but you're freaking batting 209? That's the current status of baseball. They have figured out that you can be productive in the game while hitting 209 if you're slugging enough. And Max Muncy's doing it. And because of that, he's number 2 in OPS, number 2 in RBIs, number 1 in home runs. That's why he's up here on the top of the list. At number 3 for me. And I will say, as far as defense goes, like Max Muncy's defense has never been a strong suit for him. I mean, he's kind of filling in at third base, but that's where they put him now. And he's not in the top 23 for defensive WAR. So do that what you will, and you're thinking, well, he's number 1 in home runs and second in everything else. Why isn't he higher than 3? It's because he's defensive WAR. He's out of the top 23. Otherwise, he might be higher. And if his batting average was just goddamn not so bad, he'd definitely be higher. So with that said, that was number 3, man. We're flying through this pretty quick now. Number 2. There's only a couple guys left. And I'm wearing a Red Sox shirt if you can't see. But number 2, Rafael Devers. Let's go. Number 2. And the reason he is here is because he's just solid everywhere. And his stats are good. So we'll look at his stats so far this season. Batting average, we'll start there. He's 12th in batting average at 254. So there's a lot of guys at 250, 260 range. So 254, I'll take that for a third baseman as long as his other stuff is looking really good, which Rafi's numbers are. So he is at second in home runs right now with 13 home runs for the Boston Red Sox. Only behind Max Muncy. He's ahead of Patrick Wisdom in that category. RBIs, he is number 1 in RBIs. He is so clutch. He always seems to be putting the ball in play when the runners are in scoring position. Big swings, big hits. He's got 44 RBIs, 10 above the guy in second. Just ridiculous. And that's part, second in home runs, first in RBIs. You kind of see where I'm going with number 2 on the list, right? And his OPS is number 5 at 826. So maybe you'd like to see him walk a little more. I know he strikes out quite a bit, so maybe a little less strikeouts for Rafi, a little more walks, and his OPS would probably be up around 900. But he's top 5 in the league in OPS, top in RBIs, and second in home runs. So that's pretty freaking good. And then his defense has been improving year after year, and he is inside the top 23 at number 16 in defensive WAR. So you'll take that with Rafi Devers. You don't think of him as like an elite third baseman, and I don't think you would call him that defensively, but he is top 16 in the league. So just above half, and with his offensive numbers, it's kind of a no-brainer to put him at number 2 for me. Rafi Devers, number 2. So we'll give him some claps. Go Red Sox, baby. Another guy making the list. And let's see. Number 1. This is kind of a weird one in a way, but it was hard to pick a top guy, and I didn't feel like Rafi or Max Muncy deserved it because of different reasons. But I got Matt Chapman at number 1, the third baseman for the Toronto Blue Jays. So Matt Chapman is number 1 right now. And we'll go over stats to tell you why. It's just the easiest way for me to go back on why I decided this. So his batting average, he's number 2 in batting average at 299 for third baseman, which is awesome, right? He's got a great average, getting a lot of hits. And then we'll look at his home runs, which is not like his super awesome thing that he's doing, but he is at number 10, tied for 10th in home runs in the league for third baseman at 6 home runs. A little bit lower on the power scale, but he's got great numbers elsewhere. So top tier batting average, maybe middle bottom tier home runs, right? But we'll go to his RBIs, and his RBIs are not super crazy either, but he's 10th in RBIs at 24 RBIs. And you might be thinking, like, how is this guy number one, Sam? Remember, he's hitting basically 300. He is middle top tier on home runs and RBIs. And that maybe doesn't add up to you quite yet, but listen to this. He is number one in OPS. This dude's OPS is 887. The closest one to 900 out of all third basemen. It's number one. His slugging is 508. He has 19 doubles. So he's not hitting home runs, but he is hitting a crap load of doubles. And he is also getting on base with 21 walks. So like that's where his OPS is coming from. And when you're getting on just hits in general too, like you'll take it, right? This guy, he's not hitting home runs, but he's hitting doubles, which is almost as good as a home run. It's very, very good. So now you can kind of see where I'm coming with his stats. Like maybe like some of the RBI totals and home run totals aren't where you want the number one guy to be, but his OPS is so freaking good and his batting average is so good that I couldn't really deny him. And then also defensively, this guy is elite. He has been like right behind Nolan Arenado for both of their careers as like the top third baseman in the league defensively. So he is at a .8 defensive WAR, which is the second highest defensive WAR in the league right now. The dude is elite on defense. He's got the highest OPS. He passed the OPS test. He's number one. That's where I got him. And that's it. That's it for third baseman. That's a wrap. This was a cool one to do. And I've been bouncing around the infield, kind of from second base around. I think I'm going to mix it up a little. I'm going to go catcher next because I still have first base to do. But I'm going to do catcher, and then we'll hit first base. How about that, guys? So let me know what you think of the list. Let me know if there's anything you disagree with, anything you thought was right. Hit me up. Send me messages. Send me a text. Whatever you guys want to do. And I hope you enjoy the episode. And peace. We'll see you guys later. We just wanted to say thanks again, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Dv Sports and Gaming Podcast. With that said, we wanted to give you guys a proper outro. Here we go.
All right, guys. So please follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We have Dv Sports and Gaming for Instagram. Our TikTok is Dv Sports Gaming, and our YouTube is Dv Sports and Gaming. We post all kinds of videos, all kinds of clips, sports related, and also just gaming clips. So please subscribe and follow.
And don't forget to utilize our social medias to interact with us and give feedback on the podcast and content that we create. We want to build a community around sports and gaming with our fans and listeners. And as always, guys, thanks for listening to the Dv Sports and Gaming Podcast. We'll see you guys next time.